When Edgar Allan Poe died of drink and despair in Baltimore in 1849, all that remained of him was an old coat, some unpaid bills, and some of the most feverish, compelling, and horrific literature in the English language. His work has inspired movies, poetry, theater, painting, and the photographer Simon Marsden.
All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. At length I found myself within view of the melancholy house of Usher. I know not how it was, but with the first glimpse of the building, a sense of insufferable gloom pervaded my spirit. I looked upon the scene before me, upon the mere house and the simple landscape features of the domain, upon the bleak walls, upon the vacant eye-like windows, upon a few rank sedges and upon a few trunks of decayed trees, with an utter depression of soul.
Ever from the time I first read Poe, which was at 10 or 11 years old, I immediately was excited by this work. I identified with this tortured imagination, this romantic view of the world. In the books I've done, traveling, photographing such Gothic mansions and graveyards, I've always kept him somewhere in my memory. The strange thing was that when I was asked to illustrate a book of Poe's works, I found that I already had most of the pictures. I already had grotesque gargoyles and crumbling mansions and overgrown graveyards. I only really had to take maybe 4 or 5 more to complete the book. And it was at this point that I saw the affinity that was there.
I purchased and put in some repair an abbey in one of the wildest and gloomiest parts of England. The gloomy and dreary grandeur of the building, the almost savage aspect of the domain, the many melancholy and time-honored memories connected with both, had much in unison with the feelings of utter abandonment which had driven me into that remote and unsocial region of the country.
In my photographs, it's like having a canvas then back in the darkroom. I then begin to fantasize on the negative or on the print, and I make these houses even more fantastic, even more mysterious, even more frightening. I'm really getting out of myself my ghosts and putting them into the photographs. At almost exactly the same time as I first read Poe, I was sent to a monastic boarding school in Yorkshire, and I distinctly remember I would always pass by Allerton Park, this dark, forbidding house in the distance with its tall towers and its just air of mystery and doom. These houses, for me anyway, are vast tombs.
Some vault that oft hath flung its black and winged panels fluttering back triumphant o'er the crested palls of her grand family funerals. Some sepulchre, remote, alone, against whose portal she hath thrown in childhood many an idle stone, some tomb, from out whose sounding door she ne'er shall force an echo more, thrilling to think, poor child of sin, it was the dead who groaned within.
Poe had a particularly miserable life. Every woman he ever loved died tragically. He lived in poverty for most of his life, and this is, I think, why he revered death so much and made it into such a beautiful thing. Obviously, it was a release for him, but it was also part of a cry for help to talk about death in such a way. Nobody makes death and decay more beautiful than Poe. And I suppose in the same sort of way, surrounded by these houses, I am somehow abandoning myself to death and the mystery and beauty of death.
Thank heaven, the crisis, the danger is past, and the lingering illness is over at last, and the fever called living is conquered at last.